Now, this is the biggest reason that I've seen that people are not able to close window tint jobs from the leads that they get. And in this video, I'm going to share that thing, and I'm also going to share how to fix this and how to close more window tint leads so you can grow your business faster. Now, I want you to forget about selling for just a moment, okay? Imagine you are a buyer and you want to buy something. It can be anything. So I want you to think of something you've been wanting to buy. And again, it could be anything. It could be a car. It could be an item. It could be a home. Just pick something you have not bought yet, okay? Now that you've thought about that, now imagine you come across one of those things that you want and you could buy. Would you buy that thing if you believed that there was another way to get what you want? Especially a way that might be better or cheaper? Of course not, like no one would, right? Once we understand this, there is a very important lesson in this that I'm going to talk about, and that's the number one reason that I've seen people are not able to close the jobs on the phone. Now the lesson is that when you call leads, they often have multiple options in their mind still open while you're calling them and even after you speak to them. And a big part of why they don't buy is because they have these multiple other options that they can do. They probably know that there's another way for cheaper. They probably know that there maybe is another shop that might be a better fit. And unless we close off all of those options on the call with them, they will not buy on that call. So our job is to help close these options, and these options, we have to make them see that these options are not going to get them what they want in terms of the end result that they're looking for, aka how they want their windows tinted. And by the way, this is your job to close off those options. Otherwise, they will just go to another shop. Okay, so now that you've understood why they're not closing and what you have to do on the call to get them to book with you, you're probably asking, how do we do that? Well, there's a few steps on how to do that. So first, you want them to picture all the possible solutions that are out there that they have either tried, aka they've already gotten windows tinted, maybe it's bubbling, they want to replace it, or that they're going to try, aka they're going to speak to a few other shops, they're going to shop around, etc. These are options in their mind, and we have to start discussing these first. The second thing is we have to get them to realize that there is a mistake or a cost that they will incur if they go with these other options instead of you. The third thing is we just connect the dots, and we do this by educating them. Fourth, we have to frame it as a consequence if they go with that other option, and most of the time it's going to be a cheaper option. And then fifth, we get their commitment, and that is where we make the sale. You should never give someone the price unless you have done this properly, because if you try and do this after you give them the price, and if you give them the price and you're like, oh, we're not the cheapest, but we are the best quality, if you're looking for the cheapest, that doesn't work. So stop doing that, and you have to do this before you give the price, because after you give the price, you're just fighting objections at that point. So I'm going to share the exact script on how to actually do this, but let's run through this first. So leads will probably think, okay, I'll speak to this guy. They'll leave because they think, okay, I'll be able to do something else. There's still another option. Like I'm going to speak to other shops, aka there's multiple options open in their mind. The biggest thing we need to do, as I mentioned, is help close the doors on other ways to do something. And again, you have to really understand a person buys with you when they realize that this is the best option for me. That is when they buy. And all of your leads that have bought in the past have probably realized that your shop was the best option for them in that time, and it could have been for multiple reasons. So a helpful activity over here for you guys, just call up all of your old clients and ask them, hey, by the way, like what made you actually go with us? And they'll give you a bunch of reasons that maybe you did not think about, that A, gives you conviction, tells you why you should charge your prices, why you should close every single lead that comes, why they should go with you versus someone else, gives you that conviction and self-belief, which is very important. But B, it might give you some new reasons that you probably did not know that you can use in your sales conversations. That is a very useful activity, so go do that. But coming back to this, let's brainstorm over here. So what does a cheaper option usually mean? It usually means a few things. Now, it could be a lower quality film, a film that bubbles, it could turn purple, it fades, it doesn't last long, no heat rejection. You have to pay more to replace it in the long run. Like think of how many kind of remove and replace jobs you get. Think of that over here. That wouldn't have happened, right, if they did it the first time. So these are all the issues with a cheaper film. And I'm sure you guys know even more issues because you've literally touched the films, felt the films, you know the difference. Now, that versus your tint. Your tint has lifetime warranty, heat rejection, it doesn't bubble, it doesn't peel, it doesn't fade. If your tint does not do this, by the way, you should not be charging high prices. Like if you're watching this video and you're not actually offering quality service, you need to fix that first before you start doing all of this, because we always want to sell ethically. We never want to sell unethically. So now that it's clear what the difference is between a cheaper option and your option, like in your mind, you know that, but we need to get them to realize that. And a lot of you might be wondering, how do I actually do this? What do I need to say on the call itself? That is the next part. That is where the scripting comes in. Now, there's a few branches that the prospect can go off. So if you ask them this question, they can say a few different things. But I want you to understand the gist of this because you can use this for all of those branches. If you want this exact document, I have some of the other branches, other options below. Just comment below document or send me a DM on Instagram with the word document, or just tell me you want this document. I'll send it over to you. But the way I start this is through asking this question. This is kind of like there's a few variations of this question. So what have you done to solve this problem? That's one variation. Or like, okay, before reaching out to us, were you out there looking for ways to kind of solve this? Were you out there, speaking to other shops, getting your windows tint, or what were you kind of doing? Or what did you do? So this is the question that starts off the sequence and helping us understand what they've been doing. Because first of all, we want to find out their strategy. Have they spoken to other shops? What do they plan on doing? How will they make a decision? Okay, so again, there's a few different things that they can say, but one of the things they can say is, I spoke to XYZ company, I spoke to this shop and that shop. Then you want to ask him, okay, did you go with them? Well, obviously, no, they didn't, right? So they're going to say no. And then you want to say, okay, and what do they offer you? Like, what type of tint do you remember? Or you can say, like, do you know what material they said that they were offering? They might know, they might not know. It doesn't really matter. Again, you move to the next question. Okay, can I ask how much they quoted? And over here, a lot of the times you will get a cheap price. And this is where your education part comes in. So you want to say, can I share some experience about our industry? So always ask for permission. Then they'll say yes. Yeah, unfortunately, in our industry, like not everyone is always transparent, but I think it's very important. So if it's this much, meaning like if they say like 250, whatever it was, if it's like 250, based on my experience, you're probably going to get the dyed film or like a cheaper ceramic film. And now over here, you can insert what film you think it is. If they say the price they gave me was like $199, you can assume it's going to be a dyed film. If they say it's like $299 or like $250 or whatever it is, like based on your price, you can assume it's going to be some sort of cheaper ceramic film. So again, it's like, okay, so if it's $250, based on my experience, you're probably going to get like a dyed film, cheaper ceramic film, or like the install quality is not going to be as good. Do you know what happens typically when you get like a dyed or cheaper ceramic film, like generally? And then they'll usually say no. And then you want to say, well, what other people have told us, and why a lot of people actually come to us is they've tried something like that. And what they see is it kind of goes purple after a while. It kind of bubbles up and it doesn't really offer that heat rejection. So if you get it for a few months, what would you maybe have to do afterwards? They're like, well, maybe you have to replace it, right? If they don't say that, then you can just say, well, you would have to replace it. And then I guess what would that mean for how much you would have to pay? Yeah, I mean, I might have to pay more. Yeah, you probably have to double it, right? So we're basically educating them up by asking them questions, because at the end of the day, like it's only a few $100s difference, right? This is not a service which is like 3,000 versus 1,000. It's only going to be a few $100s difference. If that, it might be just $100 difference versus your competitor. And since it is only a few $100s difference, trust me, if you're able to do this correctly, they will go with you versus the competitor if they understand this truly in their mind. Now you have to get this point to land for them. It might take a few steps and tries to do so, but once you do, then say this. Yeah, because I mean, in anything you get, you can always get something cheaper, right? But then what ends up costing you more? And I like to say this because I don't like being pushy or forcing people. So it's like, yeah, and that's a choice. Like no one can ever force you. I guess for you, is it more important to get something like cheap or something that lasts? And over here, we're getting their commitment. And once we get that commitment, then we can move on to pitching and we can do the sale. And once we do this properly, they won't give a money objection at the end because we literally discussed the problem with the cheap thing. Now, again, there's a few other options. So for example, in this question, it's like, okay, I guess before reaching out to us, like, were you out there looking for ways to kind of do this, or what were you doing? And sometimes they can say, oh, not really. Okay. When they say that, there's another branch of sequencing the following. So for example, I'll just tell you real quick. They're like, oh, I haven't done anything. No, I haven't looked around, or whatever it is. So it's like, okay, and I guess how would you maybe decide like which shop to go with? And you can totally be real. Like I really believe in that. So again, you're giving them the floor to be completely honest and transparent. So they might say, I'll go with a shop that maybe, I'll probably, go with the cheaper option, or I'll go with something that fits my budget or something like that. And then you want to plug in the same thing about sharing your experiences. Hey, can I share some experience if that's fine? And again, it's the same languaging as above that I just ran through. There's some other nuance over here. Sometimes you meet someone who thinks like they know it all. Those guys that have done their basic research about the film. They know like XPEL, 3M, Lumar, whatever it is. They think they know what they're talking about, and they don't kind of let you educate. They're like, yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, I know the different types of film. Like, I get it, buddy. If they say that, there's another kind of path you can use that really helps them. I'm not going to show it in this video. So if you actually want this document, just shoot me a comment below. You can either comment in the YouTube video or you can DM me on Instagram and say, hey, Ismail, send me the document. I will send it over. And if you want us to actually help with you, get on these calls and practice this with you, give you our entire script for the other parts of the sale, even though this is the most important thing, there are definitely other things you can do to help build up the sale and make that sale easier. And if you need any help with your marketing, getting more leads, selling more leads, growing your tint shop, just shoot me a DM on Instagram. But that's it for this video. If you liked it, please give it a like, leave a comment. I will see you guys in the next video.